All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Teeth. Today we have Dr. Samir Singh. Dr. Singh, if you don't mind, just kind of introducing yourself, telling us where you went to dental school, where you're practicing at now, and we can just go from there.
Sure. I want to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to be on your podcast. You guys have a lot of really good content. And I think in this era where, things like this are a great platform to build knowledge around our profession, hats off to you guys for sort of taking that on yourselves with a busy dental school schedule. So I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
of course. Well, we
Um,
appreciate that.
yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I went to dental school at the University of Pittsburgh. Was fortunate enough to match at Virginia Commonwealth University, or formerly known as Medical College of Virginia, where I did a 4-year residency. I declined the optional MD path at the time and came back to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where I joined a group practice, North Pittsburgh Oral Surgery,
Nice.
and practicing as an oral and maxillofacial surgeon since 2016.
Nice. So kind of backtracking a little bit, what kind of guided your decision on like the if I wanted to do the MD track versus just doing the 4 year was what variables were at play there?
What's interesting is I practice a very full scope. I do trauma, reconstruction, orthognathic surgery, pathology. I don't really shy away from anything that's within my scope. And so, whenever I was applying for residencies, I primarily looked at what programs offer a different volume and variety
Sure.
of procedures. Certainly, you want to be heavy on, your core principles of OS, such as dental alveolar surgery, dental implant surgery, and things like that. But I was very fortunate to be a part of the heyday at the University of Pittsburgh with their oral maxillofacial surgery department. So I had a great example of what a great program and great training looks like.
For
So
sure.
it started there, and then I was able to sort of go through and pick which program sort of met my needs. So truly, I didn't really look at it as a 6 versus 4.
Sure.
What I looked at was scope of practice, volume, and variety.
Yeah,
Nice.
sweet. Piggybacking off that, going a little bit earlier in your journey, what kind of led you down that OMS track? I know you mentioned that you had really good training at Pittsburgh. Was it just your faculty that kind of just introduced you to it, or what was the thought process as you were getting ready to apply?
When I first got into dental school, and I'm fortunate enough to have a lot of students that'll come shadow, and many of them have actually since gone to dental school, and some of them have since matched into oral maxillofacial surgery residency and other residencies. So I've been able to see the regenerative aspect of it, from when I started to now the next generation. And so what I always tell people, and what I always told myself at the time, was to keep an open mind. It's very easy to close doors, but if you keep as many doors open as possible, I think that's the best thing you can do. So even if I wanted to practice general dentistry, I still wanted to have all the options available to me from the standpoint of didactics and class rank and things like that. So I'm in with an open mind, and I do credit one of my mentors, Mark Ox, for getting me hooked on oral surgery. I remember approaching him after one of his courses and introducing myself and asking if I would be able to spend some time doing an externship at the residency program. And I remember him looking me dead in the eyes, and he said, "Be careful." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "I'm going to get you hooked." And dead,
Fair
dead
enough.
in the eye. And sure enough, I spent 2 weeks at my home program and saw a little bit of everything. And I really didn't think I could be happy doing anything else.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's awesome too that you can incorporate more of a broad scope on things as opposed to just honing in your skills on something. I think that's pretty unique too. As far as private practice goes, did you like have a set game plan during residency or prior to residency on like how you wanted to immerse yourself in private practice, or did you kind of tackle one thing at a time?
I give a lot of credit to my mentors at MCV because they really prepare you for whatever track you want to take. We did a level one trauma center. We did a ton of trauma. We did a ton of orthognathic surgery. We did reconstructive cases, but we were really good at taking out teeth. By the time I was done, I was doing impactions on my own, running my own anesthesia with, attending supervision. But
Sure.
Supervision as you got more seasoned in residency was just discussing cases and your anesthetic plan, and they'd pop their head in and check just to make sure things were going well.
Right.
And I give George Deeb a lot of credit. He came from Oregon and really ramped up our implant program. So I felt very comfortable stepping out into private practice, but same kind of mindset was there in residency to keep an open mind. Um, I'll be honest, first year I didn't really know up from down. I didn't know what I wanted to do. It was
Sure.
very tempting and very different. And so I was just trying to keep my head above water, so to speak. And then as I got further along, I started seeing things that I enjoyed doing. And I also had the benefit of having Dr. Joe Nyamtu in town, also a former MCV graduate. He's one of the premier facial cosmetic surgeons. He's known worldwide, so we were able to spend a little bit of time in his office. And of course, our program director had his cosmetics license as well. So
Yeah.
we were really given a good introduction to core and advanced OMS. So to answer your question, really it came down to what did I like? And the minute I started interviewing for practices, I knew exactly what I was looking for.
Sure. That's awesome.
Yeah, sweet. I know it's been a while since you've been in residency. I know you graduated back in 2016, but how was your residency at BCU like? Was it, I mean, I know you just expounded on it. You did a lot of different things, but for someone who's, say, interested in VCU, what would the typical day to day look like year to year at VCU's residency program?
I still maintain they're one of the strongest programs in the country and still to this day. One of the things I respected the most about that program is the consistency of the leadership, starting with Omar Abubakar, who's just an amazing human being. He's the chairman, he's been the chairman, still operating. Then the former program director, Rob Strauss, who's taken a back seat, wants to travel. He loves traveling and cooking and just a very eclectic guy.
Sure.
And then George Deeb has been there, a staple, Dean DeLuke. And so, when I went there, that was the one thing that stood out to me. The other thing that stood out to me as I did an externship there was it was very much so resident run. So the chief was doing half the case, and either another chief or a third year was doing the other half. And there was an opportunity for interns and second years to get into the operating room as well. So their structure made a lot of sense. There was different teams. There was a dental school team that handled, the dental student emergency clinic and a first year resident dentalvelar clinic. The second year residents would float into that as well. The third years would do the attending schedule or their own private schedule on the resident side. There was a hospital clinic where we were actually doing intubated GAs. So we were able to practice our airway skills pretty regularly. We had anesthesia machines and doing impactions and anesthesia. And then there was a hospital team, and that hospital team was in charge of the rounding, the case prep, and things like that. So it really depended on what rotation you were on at the time being.
Sure.
Yeah.
And was academia like a part of your radar too a little bit after school, or how did that kind of unfold, or how has it been unfolding?
Yeah, what was interesting was I gained a big respect for academia and the things that those guys do on a day-to-day basis. They take the hardest cases, they do it with grace, with class, with precision and skill. And I think that folks that are in academia, I mean, they're bleeding hearts. They deserve all the honors and all the recognition.
Sure.
And so when I got out of practice or out of residency and I started my first year in practice, what that looked like within our group was, a very busy clinic schedule. But at the time, one of our partners was doing orthognathic surgery, but you could come on as a second surgeon and help out, which was good. But I still wanted more. So I approached again, my mentor and friend, Mark Ox, and asked if there was an opportunity to teach a little bit at the University of Pittsburgh. And I credit him a lot for trusting me with that because I was part-time faculty at the University of Pittsburgh taking level one trauma call with the residents for about 7 years.
Oh, wow.
So in addition to working, people would call me crazy, but in addition to working in private practice, I was still draining pus at 2 a.m. and doing dog bites and gunshots and
Madman.
going into work and, shucking teeth and placing implants. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, I always had an interest in that, and
Sure.
I still have that interest, and I still scratch that itch in different ways.
Right. That's awesome, man. Cool story. So what kind of fast forwarding to now, so you're in private practice now, what's your like I guess your weekly schedule and your day to day, and like what's your? I know you said you do broad scope stuff, but like what's your typical like day to day look like?
So a little bit about our practice. I'm in a group practice at North Pittsburgh Oral Surgery. The nice thing and the reason this practice made a lot of sense is they've been around since 1958. And so we actually, one of our four offices, we've owned that space since the
That's
60s.
crazy.
Wow.
And one of our senior partners that retired in 2019 was one of the first surgeons in the community in our area to do orthognathic surgery at a hospital that we have a fruitful relationship with. So it's been pretty cool. So my day to day looks like we have four locations. We have six surgeons now and looking to add a fifth location. So I go to three of
Wow.
the four locations at this time, and my schedule is jam packed with wisdom teeth extractions, implants. I have a focus on simple and complex bone grafting, all on X surgery, and implementing a fully digital workflow. So it's been great. Sorry if you hear my kids in the background.
No worries at all.
But yeah, so I do that. Our Wednesdays and Fridays, we have half days,
Sure.
the opportunity to go to the operating room
Sure.
and do cases, orthognathic surgery, trauma, things of that nature.
Right. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool. I know one thing I'm always curious about is, your training is like traditionally in surgery, but also kind of jumping into like a new digital workflow era. It's kind of like, I guess, where are you getting most of your like knowledge on that? Because I feel like the pros guys kind of understand that workflow a lot more and all, but it seems like, did you even have any foundation on that, or everything's just new as it's coming?
The only digital stuff I had experience with is virtual surgical planning, right? I mean, I was still
Hmm.
back in the heyday of orthognathic surgery. We were mounting models and, doing paper tracings. I mean, it's like crazy what
Yeah.
we
Bless
were
your
doing, like
soul.
spending all day doing. It's good to understand the foundation, but to answer your question, I give a lot of credit to one of our junior partners, Alex Fagan. He trained at Medical College of Georgia in Augusta, and one of his interests was 3D printing.
Sure.
And so I started doing all on X stuff with the traditional analog conversions in office. And then we sort of got an intraoral scanner and started playing with that. And then when Alex joined us in 2022, or partnered at 2022, he set us up with 3D printers. So now we're actually printing our own provisionals in house.
Oh,
That's
nice.
awesome.
And then we bought a couple other toys, a micron mapper for photogrammetry and
Hmm.
things of that nature. So we're printing our own implant guides and surgical guides and
That's
things of
awesome.
that nature. So a lot of it's been through trial and error.
I can imagine.
Dive your plane or dive, but don't be surprised if
Yeah,
everything you predict doesn't happen.
sure.
Yeah.
So we have some backup plans, as any good surgeon should have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's been wonderful to see the evolution.
yeah. That's
Yeah. That's sweet. Dr. Singh, I'm pretty interested in, you mentioned that you're from Pittsburgh and this practice is obviously like, seems to be pretty well established in Pittsburgh. I'm curious to see how the process of getting that job, and I know you'd mentioned that now you're a partner. Was there an associateship involved with that? And then were you able to buy in? How did that process of, not the dentist or not the dentistry part, but the business part of it kind of play out?
Yeah. So one of the nice things about joining a well-oiled machine, so just going back a little bit to the history of the practice, they expanded to a second location in the 80s. And then I give a lot of credit to one of our senior partners, Wayne Rasha. He joined on in 2008 and then almost turnkey opened up two other locations.
Wow.
And then I joined on, my partner Sean Marsh joined on, and we manned those offices and built those up to be really busy. And so the nice part of it was our associateship was a year and a half. And during which time we had a base salary as well as a bonus threshold, which, if you're busy and wanting to be busy like I was, that's very easy to hit. So I was able to do that associateship for a year and a half and found that I was a good fit. They liked me, I liked them, and then it was very easy for me to partner in.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about the way we do our partner buy-in is part of it is subsidized through the practice, interest free over 10 years. And
That's
then the
awesome.
other one is a buy-in through a bank loan. Now, as you can imagine, it's a big number, so it seems a little bit scary,
sure.
but we actually co-sign that loan. So all of our collateral is also at stake if, heaven forbid, you were to default on that.
Hmm.
So it is very friendly, and we have a good relationship with the bankers in the area since we've been a good client of theirs for many years. So
Hmm.
they've made it pretty seamless. And so now we have two associates, Stephen Licht and Seth Lano, who Stephen trained at UIC, Seth trained at OSU, and those guys are also on track to becoming partners as well.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Y'all, it seems like y'all got a good group of guys and if girls there put together to kind of, I don't know, just have a good workflow and a good streamline process of getting things done.
It's nice because we all have our own interests, and certainly you can be as busy as you want, or um, just you can work at your own pace.
Right.
Yeah.
Tend to be a little bit crazy, as you guys have probably surmised by now.
Yeah.
So I tend to keep a pretty hectic schedule, but that keeps me happy. It keeps me, where I need to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Not to get too existential on you, but what are your goals moving forward, like in the future? Like, let's say like 5 or 10 years from now, like, do you see yourself doing the same thing or just taking it year by year?
And I'm glad you asked that question because I think that everything in our lives, if you're on this track, is very preordained.
Right.
So if you know you're going to apply to dental school, you have to have the grades, you have
Hmm.
to get the test scores, you have to do the interviews. Then when you're in dental school, if you want to specialize or do whatever, you have to get the grades, you have to, have the rank. So for me, I was a little bit precocious in my career making aspirations. I wasn't quite sure what to do. I had worked really hard. I felt like I was submerged underwater for 4 years and I came up for a breath of air and I didn't know what to do. So after, some careful consideration and time, my goal is to just leave a legacy. That's it. Leave a good legacy. I don't need to be the richest. I don't need to be the fastest. I don't need to be the smartest. I just, whenever I retire, whenever that day is, I just want people to say, you know what, I worked with Dr. Singh and he's a very good guy and, a good practitioner and he helped me out when I really needed it. And that's more so for my kids too. One of the most humbling things is becoming a parent. I don't know if you guys have kids or are
I
married,
don't.
but it's like all this stuff that we're talking about is crazy, but like that is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can imagine.
I just want to set a good example for my children,
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, as far as like the actual work, I'm privileged enough to do some speaking for a couple companies, Zimmer Biomet or ZimV dental implant company. I do some webinars and some teaching for them. I'm doing some teaching or working on doing some teaching for BioHorizons. So I think I would do, obviously keep a good clinical load, but I'd like to share my experiences, right?
Right.
Hmm.
You guys asked how I got into the digital workflow. How did I build up a busy all on X practice? I mean, we're doing 30 a year. I mean, it's not like a clear choice or anything like that. I mean, I'm doing
Hmm.
30 a year,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's not the other six guys in the practice.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would love to have the opportunity to share my story and
Sure.
guide other practitioners on the right way to do things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely, unbiased opinion, think you have a very solid and moral approach to like how things are coming at you in life. Because I feel like when you're a dental student and even like you going through residency and first years out in practice, nose is so much to the grindstone that it's hard to kind of see what you really are valuing. So
You don't know up from down some days, man. I know it. I remember that. I was thinking, before jumping on this podcast, I was like, man, these guys are in the thick of it. D3 is
yeah,
just like, like this is the time you're looking to apply for residencies or, looking at your next steps. I mean, that's a lot. I,
sure.
I remember those days.
Yeah. So I guess staying more on the topic of OMS, being that that's your background, how do you see the future of that specialty changing and pros and cons? Like, what do you think the field is going to experience in the short term and long term future? Just out of curiosity.
I was actually listening to a couple other podcasts that you guys had with a couple other OMSs. And certainly, this is a big time with DSOs or private equity backed companies, where you could either be the wolf or the sheep, so to speak.
Hmm.
And within our market, I've seen some of our competitors actually sell out to private equity. So, one of the things that we decided pretty early on was we wanted to be on the other end of things. And so, what I mean by that is we hired a CEO for our practice, and we're hoping to soon join a platform, or excuse me, become our own platform to offer dental services to other practices. So, whether it be on-call services, staffing services, accounts receivable, revenue cycle management. We have the infrastructure to do that.
Sure.
So that's within our microcosm of our practice. That's very exciting for us. We're going to be looking to launch this within the next year. But globally, with the specialty, I think you'll see, a lot of folks decide whether they want to go through with a private equity sale or maintain autonomy. And then as
Hmm.
it relates to what we're doing right now in our day to day, one of the cool things that our practice is doing is using AI. Actually, Monday, we're launching an AI system to help with fielding calls so we don't miss calls.
Oh, that's
That's
awesome.
We're going to
awesome.
we've field tested this and tried to stump it. And Margot is her name. Margot is going to do a great job taking calls from patients and getting them to the right people. So we don't miss any calls. And I
Yeah.
think AI, there's a place for it coming up very quickly, including on-call services and things of that nature.
Yeah, that is
Yeah. It's the type of innovation that people, especially like in dentistry, don't really think of. It's just the business things that are like always get you going, but that helps you maintain patience and, you know, make sure that they're coming back. That being said, I did have a question about, well, you talked about your weekly schedule and, how you're doing everything. Are there certain days where you're doing specific procedures? Because, going from like an impacted wisdom tooth to like a bone graft to like an all on X, like that seems pretty, you're gonna have to be jumping all over the place. How does your like day to day schedule end up looking like?
It's whatever's on my
whatever's
schedule,
on the
man.
menu.
That's crazy, man.
I mean, like I got to give a lot of credit to my staff because they know, they come ready, they have a good attitude, and they build me up. When things are busy, hectic, stressful, maybe I'm feeling a little under the weather, they're always there to be my backstop. So, and certainly I have supportive partners within the practice. So, a Friday for me might look like, 6 IV sedations, a couple locals, then go to the hospital and do a double jaw or a LaForte osteotomy or something like that.
Yeah.
So I might cut out a little bit early just to go do that for the afternoon. So ends up being like 7 to 5. And then in the summertime, we actually expand our hours to start at 7 every day.
Mhm.
And as you can imagine, that's a popular time to get
Yeah,
everything done, including orthognathic surgery. So I typically operate with a second surgeon on almost every case. So God bless my partners for joining me,
sure.
7, 8 o'clock at night some days doing cases. So starting at 7 in the morning and getting home at 7, 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Man, that's crazy. Having a because 7 to 5, that's just the day or the time that you're doing surgery, but 5 to 9, 5 to 10, that's when you're doing all your case planning for the day after. So kudos to you, man. That's being almost 10 years out of practice now, and still having the drive and want to do stuff like that, and embracing those long days. That's it's a testament to your character. So
for sure.
man, I got all the respect in the world for you.
I appreciate that. And my thought behind that is quite simple. I just remember, man, I was blessed to go to the residency program I was in, and my two co-residents, Gray Wilson and Fahad Al Saad, so stinking smart. I mean, Gray went to UNC, which is another one of those powerhouse
Mhm.
dental
Yeah.
schools and residency programs. So he came in ready to roll, and Fahad was a non-cat at VCU for 2 years, and then he finally
Oh
matched.
my,
So
Yeah.
we joked that they should have given him an honorary MD because he was 6 years.
Yeah.
yeah,
These guys, man, they were so smart. So I was never like the prize student or anything like that. I mean, I definitely had big shoes to fill.
sure.
Yeah.
I just remember waking up super early before cases, poring over details, and trying my best to be like that and excel and really just be crisp. And I just know how hard it was for me, and I never really wanted to give it up. I just thought it would be easy to narrow your focus because once you get in practice, it's super easy to do that.
Right.
Hmm.
I can see that being the case. As we're wrapping up here, Dr. Singh, I know one of the things you mentioned is, he should have got that honorary MD. Last year, there was like, I don't know, I think like 20 something spots at MD programs that didn't get matched. Do you kind of have any thoughts on that? Just out of curiosity, how do you think that will play out too moving forward?
I was lucky enough to, I have a case coming up where I'm harvesting a hip graft. I'm doing an iliac crest bone graft. It's a double jaw surgery that was done by another surgeon out of state, actually. And he is a non union, so I need to go in and reconstruct that.
Oh, well.
So one of the things that I am lucky having is privileges where I don't really need an MD to do those things. I have the training, I have the case volume. I'm sure you guys saw I got my FACS, which is a tremendous honor. And so, to get back to your question, I think that, again, I think it goes back to volume and variety. And I think it goes back to the individual. Certainly, if a 6-year track gave me the opportunity to come out and be a strong surgeon, I would jump at the opportunity.
Sure.
So, I know that there's different times now with debt and things of that nature,
For sure.
increasing costs of schooling, and God bless those folks that accumulate all that debt and
Right.
still come out at the other end of it. But I was just very singularly focused on that one
Yeah,
goal. And I think a lot of folks who are applying to this specialty probably have that same goal.
for sure. So as we're wrapping up here, Doc, do you have any final advice for dental students or people early in their dental career as they move forward? Kind of some pearls of what you faced in your lifetime or any type of encounters you have that you would like to share with students that are going in this field or even just in the career of dentistry in general.
Tons, man. I would say, as I mentioned before, keep your doors open. It's very easy for those doors to close, and sometimes they don't open back up. So as you're going through schooling, make sure you do that. Get a lot of experience in different departments. Talk to residents. Talk to faculty. They have the benefit of experience behind their name. Um, be kind to yourself, right? Like mental health, take care of your mental health, be kind to yourself. Not everybody can be perfect 24/7, 365. Do the best that you can. Take solace in the fact that you've done the best that you can and learn from it and grow. That's why it's school, right? That's why it's a practice. That's why it's a residency program, a training
Sure.
program, right? Because you're
Hmm.
there to learn. And, even to this day, I'm humbled, on a day to day basis. And it's just keeping the eyes forward and learning from those experiences and making sure that you deliver the best patient outcome. So there's a lot more, man, but those
Yeah.
are those are big ones that jump out to me. And just be kind to yourself and don't give up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Dr. Singh, for joining us today. And truthfully, Saad and I'm sure our listeners really appreciate your honesty and how humble you are with the opportunities that you've gotten. So we really thank you for joining us and sharing your knowledge with us and dental students that are going in the field of dentistry.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
And certainly the offer extends to you guys. If you want to keep in touch, you're more than welcome to, you know, text me, email me. Do you guys share contact information at all
Yeah.
for? Yeah. So if anybody wants to come up to, our practice and spend some time with us in the office or in the operating room, you guys are always welcome. My operating room is always open. And you guys have my Instagram page and things like that. So if you guys want to check out some stuff, I've gotten a little lax with, the kids at home. Certainly try to keep up with posting here and there. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that offer extends to you and anybody who's tuning in.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us,
Sweet.
man. And we'll keep in touch.
We appreciate it, man. Yeah.
My pleasure. Take care, guys.
You too.
Yeah.